Thanks for coming to this session. We're going to talk about custom apps, how to make a bunch of them. My name is Matt Black. I'm a mobile developer at Black Diamond. So here we go. So, first of all, what is a custom app? What do I mean by that? Well, an app, a mobile app that has custom graphics and colors over, we have one source code base, and we're just going to make a bunch of these apps differently. So these apps have custom behavior and features. They're individually built and deployed, and they each have separately managed store accounts. But they're all backed by the same cloud platform. And you might be thinking, okay, that's cool, but why? Well, our clients get their name on their own app. And their end users, the actual users of the app, get a much more intimate experience. And also for us, we get more profit. So this is going to be about how we make over 100 apps. And we do this, we have updates every 6 weeks. So we are constantly building and releasing a bunch of apps. First of all, we have a very dynamic code base. All of it is based on who we're building the app for. We also have our own process that we follow every 6 weeks, and we have our own in-house tooling that we've built and are constantly improving. And then, of course, we use Bitrise. We couldn't do it without them. So let's talk about that code base first. We have code templates, and these are EJS files or ERB files where we're loading in just like it could be any kind of data, and where it's going to overwrite the templates. And then we also do a lot of graphics generation based on the source graphics that we get. And we have user profiles for whoever's logging into our app. It's going to customize the experience, as well as feature flags. And we're going to talk about each one of these. So the code templates, these are things like the bundle ID for the app, or an OIDC client secret, all these things that you would need to bake into your app. Since we're doing it over 100 times, we use templates. And these templates get transformed at build time, so depending on which app we're building. And we do this using Fastlane. And Fastlane is a huge part of our process. So for the graphics generation, what we do is we get a logo and an icon from our client, and we take those source graphics and we generate all the parts of the app that need a logo graphic, all the icons for Android and iOS, and all the screenshots for the stores. This uses shell scripting and image magic, so it takes about 3 seconds to generate all the graphics that we need, and it happens at build time as well. Now for user profiles, what do I mean by that? Well, user profiles are they're coming from the database. It's a flexible Mongo document that has a lot of customization, and these are controlled through our platform by our clients. They can change what their end users end up experiencing in their own app. And this comes in as soon as the user logs into the app. So it's happening at runtime, and it customizes their experience, right? Feature flags, they also customize the UI, but they also can deal with changing the data that actually comes into the app. Like, for example, we recently migrated from one monolithic backend into a bunch of microservices for all of our data. And we used a feature flag for each one of those that would make the app use the microservice over the previous service. So that also happens at runtime after login. And these feature flags, they're controlled by us. So we get to target specific apps, specific groups of users, that kind of thing. All right, so for our release process, for our whole cycle, first of all, when we're making new apps for new clients, we provide them with documentation so they know how to set everything up. And we also have our own service accounts that we use. We have a tool called Mobile Manager, and we do lots of automation to make this happen. So our documentation walks the client through how to create their store accounts, all the requirements that we need for their graphics that they give to us, and how to add our service account to their account so that we have the proper access. So these service accounts, we can log into the console or App Connect. We have the right permissions to create their client's app, modify it, change whatever we need to. Whenever they ask us to change something, we have permission to do that. And we use these service accounts to automate everything that we can. So we use Fastlane to automate a lot of the Apple stuff, and we use our own tooling to automate some of the Google Play stuff. So this one big tool that we have, it's a awesome like microservice architecture app. It's a web app that interfaces with the app stores, all the services that we need to set up for each app that we do, things like Bugsnag, App Center for code pushing, stuff like that, AWS, and also has access to our code repo so that it can commit or create pull requests to it. And we use it to create apps. We have this one form that we enter all the data into when we're creating a new app, and click one button and it generates everything that we need it to create the new app, talks to the stores, does all kinds of things. And of course, throughout the whole release cycle, we also have a big list page to see what are the different statuses for our apps. Like, is there a certificate expiring? Is our client needing to update their or renew their developer account, their membership? This tool is an ongoing thing. We're constantly adding to it, making it better, doing things that we need it to do. It's really awesome and fun to work on. And it does automation, but we also have some other things to do. A lot of particular things. Like one time, we had to update the data privacy policy for all of the apps, and that meant going into the Play Console's UI, and we basically wrote out a bunch of steps that we would have to do for every single app, and we turned right around and built a robot to do that. We also have scripts in our build process that automatically renews any push certs or developer certs and delivers those to S3 or wherever it needs to go. Of course, we have our nightly automated tests that run, and we recently created a dev build that runs nightly so that we can tell when something in the rest of the ecosystem has gone awry. We're able to catch that the very next day. Like recently, we have a React Native app, and that recently just broke due to something on the Android side of things, and we had to immediately update React Native. They patched it. And so our release process is what we're going to talk about next, and we use a lot of automation for that as well. So during release week, we have a checklist that we go through. And then we kick off the big one, and this is all the builds. What we do on release night, we'll talk about. And then finally, once all the apps are submitted, we have to deal with a lot of rejection, and that can be my favorite part. So what do we do release week? We upgrade Fastlane. A lot of times, right when we're about to build, something changes in Apple's side and breaks Fastlane, so we're usually looking to upgrade that. And we bump the version, and then we kick off our staging builds for any new apps or any apps that have changed, like their icon or their logo or their name. We make sure those are right. And we also kick off what I call some canary builds to make sure that, and these are our production release builds, and they actually go to the stores and sit there waiting to be submitted. But this makes sure that things like uploading screenshots is working, and all the extra stuff that happens when we're actually delivering the app. So that we do ahead of time. And then when everything's ready, when we're sure that our process is going to work, we kick off every app's build on Bitrise. And so we have very robust Bitrise workflows. And it's due to having done this for over 4 years. Certain apps, well, the older apps are built a little differently than the newer apps. So there's some variables depending on which app we're building. The workflow can take a different path. And we have a Slack integration that keeps everything from falling through the cracks. So we have 3 Slack channels. One that shows when we've started a build, when a build has succeeded, and when a build has failed. Now, for each of the failed builds that come in, it takes about 7 hours to do all of them. But we watch the failed builds and we open up a tab in our browser, and so we have like a whole browser window full of tabs of failed builds that we then go and click rebuild on Bitrise. Because a lot of times the failures are just from the network. So many things can go wrong just over the internet that we just have to keep rebuilding, kind of like hammering away at it. So we are consistently coming to the edge of our Bitrise credit allowance, and I can't thank our Bitrise representative so much because he's so awesome every release cycle. Just a little shout out. Thank you to Justin Townsell, amazing guy at Bitrise. So on release night, we make sure all the builds are uploaded, they're in the stores, they're ready to be submitted. Then we wait for our whole platform to update. And then the QA on our team will open up an ad hoc production build, which connects to a production and goes through, make sure everything's green, good to go. Then we submit the apps, and we use an automated tool to do this. We haven't gotten Mobile Manager to do the Google release side yet, but we still have a CLI tool that we use to go and submit all the apps for release. Finally, it takes about 2 or 3 days for most of the apps to get reviewed, and we always have rejections. Things can just go wrong, like at a particular time of, the wee hours of the night on the other side of the earth, they're logging in, and sometimes our server is not acting correct and they just can't log in for whatever reason. That happens. So we just have to respond to that and say, sorry, our server was down. Can you please retry? So we resubmit that for review. So the best thing to do when you're dealing with so many apps and a lot of rejections is to just keep your head up. That's my advice. Keep resubmitting and also keep a spreadsheet, because what ends up happening is sometimes you get a bunch of questions about your app, and when you have this, that happening 50 times, you start to see like, oh, that question has come in before. You can keep a record of your answer and just copy pasta as a response. So I want to give a big thanks to Bitrise. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I hope this was a good introduction to anyone who's looking to use Bitrise to this capacity. Um, automate everything you can. Yeah, my name's Matt Black. You can tweet at me at MattBlackDev. You can email me, matt@mattblack.dev. Very confusing, I know. And I hope to hear from some of you. And I hope there's some questions because we have almost 10 minutes to go if you want. So just let me know. I'll be over here. All right. So we've got, how do you handle one design system per client? Well, one thing is we offer theme templates. I hope I'm hitting on the question right, because we can let them, they don't really want to customize everything. They just want to choose from a selection of color schemes and options that we've pre-built pretty much, and they can just pick one. And they're happy with that because, you can't change too much or else your app doesn't look good anymore. Let's see, is any of your tooling around the store automation open source? Well, not our tooling, but we use Fastlane for a lot of things, and that is open source. And it's funny, it's owned by Google, but most of what it does is for the App Store. Let's see. Do you have use flavors or some approach to building multiple apps with the same code base? Yes, that's, you know, the beginning of the talk, we talked about the code base. What makes it so dynamic is we use a lot of customization. So we have a lot of conditional rendering. Um, we have a lot of different data services that can be chosen by our clients for their end users. They get to pick and choose a lot of what they want their end users to see. Um, and the templates are really important too. The code templates, those are ERB files or EJS files that at build time we use some data that we've stored about whatever particular app it is, and we take that and it gets copied into the templates and makes an actual JS file. And that's it. Let's see. Oh, one more. We've got, do you have multiple projects at Bitrise for the different apps, or is everything in one project? Oh, great question. Great question. So within Bitrise, we have apps and we have workflows. For what we do, we've chosen to go with a single app, but multiple workflows. And we do have one other app that we use as just like a heartbeat check to make sure that it can reach Bitrise. All right. It looks like this might be it. So again, thank you all. My name is Matt Black. Thank you so much, Bitrise, for allowing me to speak. Thanks everyone for attending. I hope we get to talk and learn from each other some more. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day.